Hey viewers, and welcome to Get Well, Stay Well on Revelation TV. My name is Cyrus, and as every week, delighted to be joined by our lovely Felicity. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Si. It's great to be back. Lovely. Green juice at the ready.
Excellent.
And a great program.
Fantastic. And what is in today's green juice, Felicity?
Well, we've got cucumber and apple, a little bit of tomato as well, and
lovely.
some wheatgrass. Yes, it's great stuff, because we're going to be talking about wheatgrass today. So I thought we'd get ourselves sorted there. Right.
Excellent, excellent. So what do our viewers have to look forward to in today's program?
Well, we're going to have some wheatgrass with Dr. Brian Clement from Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach. So we're going to go traveling, and then we're also going down to Texas to see Ty Bollinger, who's been making a wonderful program called The Quest for Cancer. And I met Ty in April last year. Really interesting guy. Again, he's a researcher like Philip Day and myself. He's lost a lot of family members to cancer, and he was a successful chartered accountant. He decided he would try and find out the cures to cancer, did this amazing tour of America, and is coming to Europe this coming year, which is interesting, and really researching all the natural cures, and really interesting man. Then we're going back to Hallelujah Acres again, and this time we're going to have Dr. Anna Maria, who is actually Swedish. She is married to Brian Clement, and she's talking about the emotional causes of illness.
Fantastic. So we've really got an overall view of health really in today's show, haven't we?
That's right. And we're going to have a little exercise as well.
Yeah, we've got a fun clip. You said we're going to have a little bit of exercise. Are you offering to do some live on the show?
I think your mother's going to take over that part of the show, isn't she? She's going to do the exercise clips with her dancing, maybe.
That'll be interesting to watch for certain. Okay, so let's take a look at our first clip for today. This is actually a little bit of fun, exercise at the gym. Let's take a look at this. What a great VT we've just watched there. Very interesting. What a lot of fun that was, Felicity.
Well, it is fun, you know, and I have obviously worked out in gyms through my life, but I don't do that anymore. I think that it's so much better to be in the fresh air, in the sunshine, and walking and playing golf or doing what other exercise people want to do, playing football as you do, just walking by the beach, walking by the trees, but getting the oxygen into our bodies, much better than being in the sweaty gym.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really funny when she smelled her armpits at the end. And obviously she was quite pleased because she had sweated.
Yeah.
But what we have to be very careful of is to have the coconut oil under the armpits so that it kills the bacteria, you see, so you don't smell. So really interesting. Also, sodium bicarbonate shaken into the shoes.
Oh, right, yeah.
Will stop odours. So all these wonderful natural things
tricks,
are really
excellent.
good. Instead of having a lot of chemicals.
Excellent, because I'm sure we all want to obviously be active and exercising, and when we do something like exercise, we really do feel great and we see the immediate results for it. It's interesting there, it's quite funny and humorous with the different people who go to the gym kind of thing, because if I used to go to the gym and you'd see people, they go to the gym it's more of a social thing. They don't actually work out, and I'm watching them and they're just talking to their friends. You don't actually see them physically doing anything.
That's right, they go to be seen, they go to have a chat, probably have a coffee as well, imagine that. And so really the morning, you know, they've been to the gym and they wear their beautiful gym clothes and look really, really trendy, they think, but they're not actually achieving anything with the body. But you know, it's important to understand that however much exercise we do, the exercise alone will never actually get that toxicity off the body if you're continuing to have the rubbish foods. Yeah. The trans fats, you know, the wrong salts, the wrong sugars, and it's really important to put the whole thing together, the exercise, the nutrition, drinking lots of water.
It's like we always say every week on our show, isn't it, Felicity? It's important to look after our health, but it's just as important to watch the foods that we shouldn't be eating. That's Absolutely. Just as important than the foods that we should be eating. Now, going back to exercising, what sort of exercise can you recommend for our lovely viewers out there?
Well, you know, the best thing really is the walking, because we can all walk, hopefully, and if we can't, at least we can bounce and we can use arm exercises. If people are even immobile in bed or in a chair, they can still use arm exercises. And it's really important just to keep the lymph moving as much as we can. So the rebounding, you know, is the best, really, where we bounce up and down on the trampoline, because that extra weight coming into it with the gravity is really going to change the way the lymph is circulating. The lymph has no pump. You know, the heart obviously is the pump for the blood, but the lymph doesn't have any kind of pump. So really we have to move, and God created us to move. He created us to work. Maybe we were, you know, growing the food, we were looking after the animals, we were fishing, whatever we were doing, it was active. And so now we've come to this very sedentary lifestyle, and it's not done us any good at all, because we have an epidemic of arthritis, heart disease, cancer, and it's all from lifestyle.
I just want to ask you, in your opinion, what is your thoughts on walking and running? In your opinion, which one do you think gets the better results?
Well, of course, you have to adapt to how people are. Obviously, you know, babies start toddling around and walking, then they start running. And when you get to my age, you probably stop running and you start walking again. And I was never a great runner. My father was an Olympic athlete, as you know. He was a really brilliant runner. And then, sadly, I didn't inherit any of that at all. Last in the running race at school, you know. But it is really important to exercise. I then got into tennis, I got into other sports, squash and golf. And with golf, of course, you're walking for about 3 hours. You're walking uphill, down dale, in and out of the bunkers, of course.
And it's very sociable, and it's a fun way of exercising as well, isn't it?
It's a great fun way of exercising. And of course, you're out in all weathers. You know, you're out in the cold weather, in the wet weather, as well as the nice weather. But it's just great to be out and taking exercise, like your football team.
Exactly, and I think the most important is everybody's at their own their own stage or own level. So that's the most important thing to take into consideration. For example, if some of our viewers out there haven't exercised in a number of years, they shouldn't just start running from day one. They obviously need to build themselves up, start walking, jogging, and then maybe running afterwards.
Well, when I was recovering from cancer, I actually started with a cross trainer because I was obviously really, really weak. And I just had the cross trainer, which is like doing Langlauf, you know, on the suspended paddles that you walk on. And I started doing that, but with the windows wide open, so I was breathing fresh air, and did the rebounder. And gradually my strength came back, but it took 2 years, really. It took 2 years to really get fit again, I would say. And as you get older, of course, you're not as fit, although there are people my age running marathons.
Yeah.
And I think there was a man of 100, wasn't there, running a marathon. So it depends on the culture, I suppose, and the fact that most of our lives, you and I are sitting in front of computer screens.
Yes.
We are sitting there.
Yes.
We're not oxygenating the body. And so we have got unfit, really.
I think that's a very good point that you've just brought across, because it's how the lifestyle has changed, how technology has changed. The more technology is coming into our lives, the less mobile we've become, really. We're more dependent on, obviously, computers and things like that, and we're less active at the same point. Whereas if you maybe compare how people's activities were 15, 20 years ago, they were a lot more physical with the things that they were doing, weren't they?
Well, basically, I think we've got lazy. You know, I always try and park my car as near to the studio door as I can. Today I had to go right up the other end. And I thought, well, what a good thing, actually. I've got to walk all that way back. And, you know, I do think people ought to run up and down the stairs when they can, for instance, at home, instead of taking the lift.
Yeah.
And, you know, just the ordinary day-to-day things, getting off the bus, you know, a stop earlier and walking.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we say, oh, I can't afford the time to do that.
That's my next point, Felicity. What would you recommend for the viewers out there who say, my day is so full on, I simply don't have a spare moment in my day to even think about exercising? What can you recommend for them?
Well, if you want to continue to live on this earth, I think you've got to make time.
I couldn't agree
and
more.
even if you did 10 minutes in the morning
Yeah.
and 10 minutes in the evening, but you really dedicated that time and said, I will go out and I'll walk in the fresh air, I think even that would be a wonderful start for most of us.
I mean, we've seen it in the newspapers this week as well. It says 20 minutes of walking per day can really extend your lifespan. It's in the papers, and everyone's talking about it, and it's true at the end of the day, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you know, the Sabbath day is holy for the Lord, and I think it's a great time to go for a walk and just think about the Lord. You know, get your life back into perspective at the weekend when you do spend time with God, at the weekend when we are away from work. And it's important to take that day off and really get back to basics.
I just want a final point on exercises. What recommendations would you give for parents out there for their children? Because obviously they maybe do a lot of homework, or they do a lot of activities that are indoor, or maybe the computer games or the tablets, computers that they have nowadays. Maybe they're less active. What sort of recommendations would you give for children?
Well, I think you've got to get them into sport. And it may mean after school you take them somewhere where they're going to play tennis or they're going to play some sort of game. I actually loved tennis, and we had a big wall at my house that had no windows on it. It was a wall at the back, and there were very, very few windows. And so I used to go out there. I was an only child, so I had no one to play with, which was a shame. But so many of us are only children, you and I are.
Yeah.
So I used to go and practice tennis, just forehand drives, backhand drives against this wall on my own, and see how many I could go, you know, without dropping the ball and all this stuff. And then I did the same with golf. In fact, I've got that sort of mindset where I like doing research. I quite like practicing things, you know, it's quite fun. And you play this game with yourself that, you know, you'll see how many forehand drives you can do. And so all that time I was building up actually fresh air, and I was building up strength in the body, and really happily occupied, but taking some exercise. So it's really up to us. We don't have to have anyone else to do it. You can exercise on your own.
Okay, well that's very interesting, and we've now discussed about exercise. Let's move on to our next subject. This is talking about juicing and blending. Let's take a look at this VT.
In recent years, blending has become fashionable. Why? Because people are pretty lazy. So it's much easier to take fruits and vegetables, even though it's very poor combining, throw them into your blender, blend them up, drink it down, and think that that's perfectly good. All you have to do is wash it out. Put it under the spigot in the sink and walk around, wash it out, and you're done. The problem is that 90% of the nutrients are gone within the first minute and a half that you blend. Number two, we should never, ever combine fruits and vegetables together, or other combining that you have to learn about in food combining charts and through the history and science of food combination. Number three, if you take these foods and swallow them down after they're blended, you cannot digest them, and they ferment in the human body. When they ferment, you either become overweight or emaciated from taking blended foods. On the contrary, juicing is juicing. Why we drink juice is so that we don't have to struggle to digest the food. That you take green vegetables, not with fruits, but green vegetables that have the superior nutrition in it because it has captured the most nutrients on this planet from the sun itself, in UV and UA rays. Sprouts being at the top of that list. Organic green leafy vegetables that are fresh, and grasses. But you wouldn't mix grass into the juice. You would do that separately. You juice this down, and in 15 minutes, the people with the worst digestive tract on the planet Earth can digest those nutrients without any impairment, without any problem, without the mixing that we spoke about with blending. Plus that, if you let that come into the body rapidly, if you juice it and immediately consume it, you're going to get almost every nutrient. Now, if you let that juice sit for 15 minutes, again, it's null and void. Just like in a blender, in a minute and a half, most of the nutrients are gone. Why we brought wheatgrass back to the world? It is a major food that can be juiced. And this food has such high protein and such a full spectrum of nutrients in it that it helps to build healthy cells. And those healthy cells are what your anatomy is made of. Not only your organs, but every part of your structure, your bones, are made of cells. Now, when we have this high protein, nutrient-rich food, it has a secondary component that's even more outstanding and amazing: phytochemistry, or phytonutrients. Now, these phytonutrients I write about in my series of books called Food is Medicine. And what we find is that these phytochemicals kill mutagens as well as microbes. Now, when we can fight off diseases like mutations and bacteria and viruses, along with building healthy cells, I can't think of anything more magnificent. And when I teach about wheatgrass, I teach it in a very simple way that anyone can understand, that all life on this planet comes from the sun. There are very few plants that capture the sun's energy from UV, UA rays, even closely to what grasses do. And wheatgrass has a full spectrum of 96 nutrients from the elemental table. There's 115, no food comes close to this. Wheatgrass has 96 of the 115 elements from that table. Now, when you find the sun rays captured by the grasses and converting into high protein, high vitamin, high mineral, high phytochemical, even essential fatty acids in a grass that you can now juice and anyone can digest, there's nothing better than this for you. So taking at least 2 ounces of wheatgrass a day, and ideally 2 ounces of wheatgrass twice a day, would make your health completely evolve to a much stronger level. And those of you fighting diseases, this is magnificent. This is what we've been using it for in great part here for 6 decades.
Hi viewers, welcome back. It's interesting when you just break it down to say, because we're always talking about juicing, we talk about blending, but it's interesting to literally break it down like you're doing, like you're doing with juicing. But to really see the comparisons there between the juicing and blending, one of the items that were mentioned there is 90% of the nutrients have gone when you blend.
Well, that's true. But you see, people are basically lazy. They don't want to go through the juicing process because it takes longer to juice, because you're having to cut the vegetables up, and it's so much easier to just pop them in a big blender. But you know, it's the same with everything in life. When you work at something, you get more out of it.
Yeah.
And so I do juice because having been so ill, and I don't want to be ill again like that, I know that I have to do it properly. I've got the NutriBullet. I think it's a wonderful start for some people who are very busy and they just want to get something going quickly.
Yep.
And you can put the banana in, you can put the avocado flesh in as well to make it creamy, and it's a lovely filler. I mean, the ideal thing would be if we juiced part of the time. We also, for a little more substantial food, we perhaps had some blends. We have some soups. You know, that's what I do in the evening. I have a hot soup. Maybe I want to have a baked potato as well, but not that often. In fact, I can live on the juices and the blends and maybe a salad sometimes, but very often I blend my salad.
Yeah.
Because actually I'm not terribly keen on a lettuce and a tomato and a cucumber looking at me. But when I blend it, I find I can drink it down. And quite honestly, Si, I'm so busy that it's so much quicker for me to do that and just have a drink beside the computer. My green juice is there and I'll drink it down. So, I mean, he's the most knowledgeable guy in the world about the wheatgrass juice. Follows in the tradition of Dr. Anne Wigmore. And, you know, she was healing all these diseases with the wheatgrass. Applied topically onto skin and wounds as well. For instance, the wheatgrass can work inside. It can actually heal lesions in the lungs. Now, there are very few things that can do that.
Wow.
But it is true, it's an amazing food. To begin with, when people have a shot of wheatgrass, the real wheatgrass you've just juiced, I mean, there's so much oxygen in it, it almost knocks you back, you know.
I mean, what is the ideal amount of wheatgrass that we should be
Well,
taking?
you start with 2 ounces, and some people have quite a violent reaction to that because they're so toxic. But as you detox, you just want to have more of this wheatgrass. You really want your shot, as they say, your shot of wheatgrass in the morning, maybe another at lunchtime, which is what we do at Hippocrates, and then you'll have another in the evening. And you see that's feeding all the cells, the 96 nutrients out of 115 possible ones. So we're getting the magnesium, we're getting the selenium, we're getting the zinc. We're getting all these wonderful anti-cancer fighting things, including the laetrile, the B17, in a natural form.
Now, I'm sure most of the viewers are out there wondering, what is Felicity's diet? What is your daily diet or routine, Felicity?
Well, I'll start with a glass of the bicarbonate of soda stirred into an 8-ounce glass of water. Drink that down because that's very alkalizing. I'll then go into my juices, my green juice. I always start with a green juice, which is the best. Then during the day, I'll go on to maybe carrot juice, apple juice, beetroot. Sometimes I mix them up together and put broccoli and cabbage and all kinds of other things in. But basically, I like to see the colors of them. So I like to see my green juice green. I like to see, you know, the red with maybe the grape juice or the beet juice. And the lovely oranges and the lovely yellow juices of pineapple. I actually like to see my juices mono.
Yeah.
Most people are just putting everything in together, and so you end up with a rather muddy colour.
So just remind our viewers, for example, in today's juice, what did you include in today's juice?
There's cucumber, there's apple, there's a little bit of tomato as well, and some wheatgrass. But it's really nice. And then I also sieve my juices as well. And a little bit of lemon, of course. I put a little bit of lemon in every time. But to grow the wheatgrass, of course, is so inexpensive because the grass is growing everywhere. We can grow it at home with the organic seed, or we can have someone, the farmers are actually growing it. I've got farmers in Jersey growing it now. And there are farmers here growing it. So, but if you grow it yourself, of course, you know that nobody's sprayed chemicals on it.
Yeah.
And it's fresh. It's only 11 days ever that you grow this this wheatgrass.
And the point is, like you've just said, it is so easy to grow it yourself as well, isn't it?
Well, a child can do it, and you know that's the great thing. I'm getting the children to grow it, and then they learn. So that's a joy, and of course they love seeing the seeds growing. You know, the little sprouts start sprouting, and then it starts to grow, and it's really quite exciting. And depending on how much sunshine you have, because you need to green it up at the end, and it's just lovely to see this stuff, and then you harvest it all at the right moment. So as soon as the main stem starts to joint off, that's called the daughter, little sprout that's coming out to the side, that's the moment of the greatest nutrition actually in the wheatgrass. So then you cut the whole thing with scissors or a ceramic knife, you just cut across, put them in the green bags, have your juice for the day, and then every day you can take it out of the fridge and it's fresh, so you juice that. In the meantime, you're growing your next batch. So I've actually got 3 lots and I keep it going.
Now, so I'm sure some of our viewers might be saying, if I want to juice and I want to do the wheatgrass, but will that get me through the day? Will that give me enough energy to get through the day?
Well, it certainly got us through the most rigorous days at Hippocrates, because we had to run and walk, we had to do all the exercises, we had to go to the gym, we had to, and of course we were doing lectures. There was a tremendous amount of science, and you know, really learning how to grow the stuff. Also, they've got an organic garden now, so people are actually gardening while they're there, and really learning how to take care of themselves, because the whole thing is, it's not giving someone a fish, it's giving them the fishing rod for life. So that's they know how to look after themselves.
It's education, and that's hopefully what we're trying to do on our shows every week as well.
That's right.
Now we're going on to our next clip with VT, shall we say, with Ty Bollinger. Who is Ty Bollinger?
Well, he's a big Texan guy who's lost his parents to cancer, was really horrified at what happened to them, and lost a lot of other family members. He was a chartered accountant, he'd made quite a lot of money, and he's now got children of his own, and he looked at them and he thought, I don't want the same thing to happen to his wife and himself and the children. So he started researching seriously, like I did and Philip Day has done, and discovered, you know, all this information which we will see on the VT. Yeah.
Excellent. So this is called Cancer versus the Immune System. Let's take a look.
One of the things that's pretty much without dispute is that the immune system plays a big role in the prevention of disease. As a matter of fact, the immune system is really your first line of defense against pathogens, against the bad guys that come in and try to invade your body and make you sick.
So cancer, first and foremost, is a problem with the immune system. You cannot have cancer if you have an intact immune system.
One of the things that I do is I begin to unimpede their immune system, because every cancer patient, their immune system has missed the cancer. So it has missed it. And so you have to unimpede their immune system, and then you have to stimulate it back into action.
With all our patients, whether it's cancer or any kind of chronic disease, it's always about lowering inflammation and improving and increasing immune system response, because your immune system has to fight, fix, and repair against anything.
It'd be logical to argue that in an intact immune system, there would be no room for cancer.
The immune system can do its job, surveil for foreign substances and foreign bodies and get rid of that, and you know, it can keep cancer at bay. It's when the immune system gets disrupted, I think that's when bad things start happening to us.
Many people, and I'm one of them, see cancer as basically a disease of the immune system. Especially in our modern world, I don't think there's any way you're going to stop cells firing off and going wrong and turning into rogue cells. There's just too many toxins. But a good immune system will pick them up very quickly and eliminate them. So in a very strong sense, cancer is a disease of the immune system. So you want to do everything in your power to help the immune system. That means, you know, the right kind of nutrients that will help it. It also means removing the stresses that will stop it working.
Antibiotics, right? Antibiotics can't cure anything. They can bring down the number, right, the cell count, such that then your immune system can take over, but it's your immune system that does the curing. We have to understand that the thing that cures cancer is your immune system.
See, what most people don't realize is all of us have cancer cells. We're all developing them every single day. typically our immune system would hunt them down and regulate them. However, when we've got immune deficiencies, which is another problem with sugar, it weakens our body's innate immune system. And so when that happens, now these cancer cells will start to grow without being checked, being kept in check by our body's natural immune response.
Another thing that sugar does, and most people don't know about, is the average amount of sugar in one can of, let's say, Coca-Cola. It's probably 9 or 10 teaspoons of sugar in there. That's enough sugar to effectively shut down a minimum of 50% of your immune system for 4 hours. One 12-ounce Coke. If you're a cancer patient, can you afford that? Since the immune system is the only thing that can heal you, we simply can't afford that. No doctor has ever healed anyone of anything in the history of the world. The human immune system heals. And that's the only thing.
Hi, welcome back. So that was just an interesting article there talking about the cancer and immune system, and I don't think people really understand the importance of the immune system, Felicity.
Absolutely, it's vital. And you know, the first, Dr. Ben Johnson was saying how we have to unimpede the blockage in the body. So of course that's the colonics. We have to do the colonics, and when people are only juicing, they're only doing half the therapy really, and they have to do these colonics and enemas and implants. And when people understand that, you know, they will transform their health. But you see, just doing the juicing will release a lot of the toxicity from the liver, but it's sitting in the colon. And if it's not moved out, guess what? It's reabsorbed again. It only makes common sense. But people haven't been taught this. They haven't been taught the basics of how their body works, really.
Just remind our viewers about the colonics, why they need to be doing this in the process.
Well, it's a way of cleaning out the colon. You know, our immune system is 70% in the colon. So if we've got a lot of rubbish in the colon, our immune system is, as he says, impeded. It can't work properly. So we need to wash out the colon. And, you know, when I have nurses who have worked for many years with health, you know, they say, we remember the days when we did this all the time. And the patients had that as well. And it's not like an enema when the women who are watching saying, oh, well, I remember I had an enema before I had the baby, actually before the birth process. And it's not at all the same. This is a gentle washing out of the whole colon. And it works absolutely brilliantly, and we really need to do that every day. So the second one, Dr. Sunil Pai was talking about inflammation, and the inflammation in the body is when we start getting tired, we start getting enervated, we have little irritations, inflammations. This is the thing that eventually builds up into mutation. And you know, cancer is no big mystery, it's no big surprise, it's just toxicity that has got to such an extent that it mutates in the body.
And how much does juicing help our immune system?
Well, absolutely, because it's, you see, you have to clear out the rubbish, and then you also have to nourish the body with the good things that God has told us to have. So it's the fruits, the vegetables, the seeds, the nuts, and the green plant. We cannot get enough good nutrition into the body if we're eating a normal diet. You're getting a lot of food in, but it's not nourishing the body. This is the thing we have to understand. So when we juice, say 30 carrots, and we drink them in a glass, we are starting to get enough nutrition in for the cells to work properly. It's science. It's just very simple, basic science of putting nutrition into the body and eliminating the rubbish. And inflammation is the cause of disease. The antibiotics, as he says, Dr. Roby Mitchell says, you know, they are helpful if we are completely overwhelmed with a really bad virus, like pneumonia, something serious. And then you need the antibiotics just to quell that enough for the immune system to take over. But in the end, it's the immune system that will win the battle.
I mean, it was mentioned on the VT there about the the sugar, the dangers of sugar, and 1 can of Coke can shut down 50% of the immune system for 4 hours.
Yeah, Bob Wright says 9 to 10 teaspoons in each can of Coke. Now, that is pretty horrific. I thought it was about 6 to 8, but he says it's about 9 to 10. And you see the manufacturers are sweetening things much more now because they know that we're all sugar addicted, and people will go for the sweeter things that they can find. They're also altering fruit, you know, so that the oranges now, for instance, are sweeter than they used to be. They're finding ways of genetically modifying these things to make everything sweet so that we satisfy that craving for sugar.
That's why we need to obviously try, if we can, try and grow our own fruits and vegetables, because then we're in control, isn't it?
That's right, and get onto the vegetables more than juicing the fruit, because so many people make the mistake of juicing fruit. You know, they say, oh, I'm getting into juicing, and they'll tell me, oh, you know, very proudly, oh, I had a pineapple juice today, and I'm saying, yes, okay, what vegetables did you put with it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't put any vegetable, I put a bit of wheatgrass, but basically, you see, they're just loading up with the sugar, and so in fact, they can make themselves worse doing that. We've got to have the proper juices. We've got to have the vegetable juices with maybe a little bit of maybe a little apple put in, as I have done with this one. But when I went to Hippocrates, you know, for 4.5 months, I didn't see any fruit at all. It was banned.
Yeah.
No fruit, only the green juices.
And what are the best vegetables that we should be juicing?
Well, you know, I think God has provided this rainbow of colors for us. So obviously the cucumber, the broccoli, the kale, all the good green ones are great. Then we can have the carrot juice and put maybe some apple with that, a little bit of ginger. We can have the bright red ones, the beetroot, the grape. I love real grape juice. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. And I think it's good to have a real variety of colors, including the berries, because they have resveratrol. And you know, the scientists are now finding all these different enzymes in the different colors. So when we eat a rainbow, you know, I call it a rainbow day, just a day on wonderful juices with all the different enzymes, you're getting a balance. So then you're getting the right enzymes, you're getting the minerals. Because remember, when we have a mineral pill that's come from rocks, we're not really going to digest that properly. It's when we eat the plant that is grown in the rock and the soil, absorb the minerals, then we can actually absorb it, because then it's organic. Different to talking about organic gardening. This is an organically grown plant. And when we eat that, then we can absorb and assimilate all those nutrients into the body.
And now finally, what are your thoughts on water? I mean, how much is the ideal amount of water which should we be drinking per day, and how important is that for us?
Well, we need pure water, and I like the ozonated water now. So what I do is distill the water or put it through a filter of some kind. For me, I always have the distilled now. If I can possibly get it when I'm traveling, then I have to just have bottled water. But the thing is to ozonate the water as well, because this is something that I've picked up this last year about the ozonating the water, and I've got this little ozonating machine, which is amazing. And you drink the water that you just bubbled the ozone into. You have to drink it straight away. But my goodness me, it's like the wheatgrass. It gives you a terrific lift because you're getting oxygen into the body, and it goes straight into the body, goes into the bloodstream, and you're actually oxygenating the cells.
Okay, well, let's take a look at our final VT for today. This is talking about stress, emotion, and diseases. Let's take a look.
When it comes to cancer, and this is just our belief, this has been very learned rabbis and religious leaders that have figured out that cancer very much have to do with anger. And you would say, well, I'm not angry. You know, how did this cancer get into my body? If they start looking into their past, and, you know, if you have a thought more than 33 seconds, it's yours. And you know, when we have good thoughts, they're gone in no time. When we have a bad thought or something bad happened to us, we dwell on it, and it becomes a part of our cellular memory. I used to look at blood under the microscope for 20 years, and every cell in your body has this physical and emotional memory of traumas from the past. The good thing is that you can work on that. But you need probably to work like we do here with two wonderful psychologists that will figure out and help you figure out what this could be. What is this? And once you get over that and really realize that there is this fear or this anger, it's amazing the healing that will take place. When it comes to anything with lungs and large intestine, it has to do with sadness and fear. And so many people I've talked that have lung problem, anything from asthma, emphysema, which you would think, well, that's smoking. No, it's much more than that. And then, of course, lung cancer. When they look back in their time, many times they do agree and they say, yes, there is sadness and there is lots of grief. How many times right after a funeral haven't we got pneumonia or bronchitis out of the blue? So that is direct correlation. And the large intestine, we don't eliminate. It just stopped. People tell me I can go for weeks, you know. Ask them if there's sadness and grief. You know, and if they don't know that, you know, the sessions we have here, for example, with our two psychologists, they'll figure that out, or they need to figure that out to heal. So it's amazing. Now, the happy one is the heart and small intestine is connected to our to joy and love. So I tell everybody, you're not going to have a heart attack when there's joy and love in your life. You are going to absorb food so much better. You have this 26-foot long small intestine. Through most of your absorption of the food happens through that. And joy and love is going to make great absorption, and it's going to make your heart very good.
Hi dear viewers, and welcome back. It's interesting there when she said about the good thoughts go out of your mind in no time at all, but it's the bad thoughts that stay in your mind for a long period.
That's right. It's a funny thing, it's a quirk, isn't it? Any kind of criticism, and we're really upset. You can have 10 emails saying how wonderful it is, and you have one email making nonsense. And you know, that's the one you tend to think about. But I've trained myself, and of course in my job I have to train myself to overcome that. And I just pray for people. Yeah. I pray for their ignorance, for their arrogance, and I pray that you know, the Lord will speak to them. And I send a gentle response back instead of suggesting a high, hard colonic, which sometimes I would love to suggest, and know that that would work, probably.
I guess it's the attitude that you have in life, really, isn't it, Felicity? Yes. It's how serious do you want to take things, and if you want to be affected by the smallest things in the world, then you will become very sad very quickly, you know. But if you take things, like you've just said, light-hearted in a way, and that's the fundamental thing. Is we all deal with different things every day, but how do we actually react to that is where it is the most important.
Well, that's where, you know, God really comes into our life. And when you think what Jesus put up with, was crucified, was mocked and scorned. And so what we go through is nothing compared to that. And, you know, if you have this passion to teach good health like I have, and Ty has, and Brian and Anna Maria, and Philip Day and all these other people, you know, we get on with the main thing. The main thing is to educate people, to get people healthy. If people really want to reject it, it's like salvation. They will reject it and they will suffer the consequences. And there's nothing you can do about that. But you keep loving people, you keep, you know, being gentle with a gentle answer. But basically, if you store up anger and you store up unforgiveness or grief, or rejection or any of these things, if you store that up, it will eventually make you ill. And it's interesting, I would say, out of all the people who contact me, you know, I can see underlying sadness or resentment maybe, but very often people are just lonely, they're unhappy, and they feel that their illness has, you know, come upon them, they're not associating the two things. And so what I do is, you know, the spiritual detox, the prayer and getting back to God, the mental detox of looking at things from a different perspective, you know, the big picture, and then the physical detox as well. Because I think most people listening to our program are thinking of this as a physical detox program. In fact, it's very much a mental detox and the spiritual detox as well, which is why I like to pray for people. And certainly I pray for all the emails that come in, and sometimes I can't manage to answer them all in the depth I would love to. If people really want to have a chat, you know, they can do that with a phone consultation. Or they come on the course, and we have such fun on the courses. We always have a great time because I have them for a week. You know, in the daytimes they're out, they're doing their exercise in the fresh air, and then we just get together in the evening and I teach, and I love it. And people say, don't you get tired? And in a way you get tired, but in a way you also get very energized, because when you're getting good energy, and I have such interesting people on the courses, that it's good energy, and people help each other as well.
That's what I was going to ask you. What are your thoughts that people should be surrounding themselves with the right people as well, isn't it? That's so important.
People are either radiators or drains.
Yeah.
And they either radiate and you feel good when you're with them, or they drain you.
Yeah.
And you can help the people who are the drains, you can help them, but in the end you have to disassociate yourself, because otherwise they will suck all the energy out of you. So you can pray for people, as I do, pray for them, but basically try to energize them. And as people get this energy coming back into the body, very often with the nutrition and a change of mindset and starting to give things over to the Lord, they heal.
Yeah, because it's a great point you've just mentioned there of the nutrition. Now, how much does the nutrition have an effect to our mental state?
Well, that's probably a good place to start, you see, because it does lift the spirits tremendously. And so, yes, you can start with the juicing and the colonics, and then as you do that, you start getting into the mental detox. Interestingly, Dr. Maria was talking about the psychologists who work at the Institute. One is actually a rabbi, doesn't say that, but he is actually. Lovely, lovely chap. And the other one has been a Roman Catholic priest in the past. So they've both got a really good background with God. They pray for each of the patients, or guests as they call them. Every morning we have every Thursday morning we have a prayer group. I expect they still do. And we actually pray for each person who's there, the patients and the staff. We pray for everybody by name. So, you know, God does play a big part in that. So it's an amazing place to be, and people do get well at the end of even a week. When people first arrive and they think, I can never do the colonics, I can never do this terrible juicing, you know, no fruit. I mean, I thought the first day, I'm never going to stick this. But you see, at the end of the week, your breathing is easier, your digestion is easier.
You automatically feel the results, don't you, yourself? But the thing with juicing is you're constantly experimenting to see what are the right ingredients for you, because we all like or dislike certain things, perhaps. And it's the case of just bringing certain things together to say, do you know something that meets my taste buds?
And that's the fun thing about sharing it with other people. You know, my Facebook page is busy because people are sharing ideas. And yes, it's amazing how people heal, and maybe the juices are the start of it, but certainly it's the mental side and the spiritual side as well that is absolutely vital for our health.
Something that was mentioned at the beginning of the clip there was arthritis can be caused from worry, and cancer can be caused from anger.
Yes.
That's how serious things can be.
Yeah, and grief and rejection and all kinds of things. You don't have to be violently angry, but quietly angry, or a feeling of denied hopelessness, maybe. You know, that's something people can't see a way out of their problems, and so they get despondent. And the interesting thing is, when we feel despondent, our cells get despondent as well, and our cells start to degenerate. So as we're making new cells every day, and you know our stem cells are constantly regenerating and making new, we are only as good as the nutrition we put into our body today as to what our cells are going to be like tomorrow. So when she talks about the live and dried blood microscopy, that's really interesting, because she can see traumas in your blood, believe it or not, that's happened back to 5 years ago. And she'll say, you know, what happened that year? And you think, gosh, what happened? Oh, yes, you lost someone dear to you that year. And it's all recorded in your blood and how you were at that time. And so obviously, she also talked about funerals. You know, when people have been to funerals, they very often go down with a cold or flu afterwards.
That's exactly right,
and
yeah.
this is all this, you know, the tears, the unshed tears that maybe are stored inside the body and goes into the lungs. And I'm sure that my lung disease probably comes, you know, my emphysema that I fight to overcome, but probably all stems from losing my daughter, losing my husband, all these things that have happened in the past. And, you know, you can sit here and be happy, but inside you still have that trauma. And so you need to overcome that in body and mind and spirit.
And my next question is, how do you protect yourself from when those kind of moments happen in your life? What do you do?
You can only do that by going back to your Bible, by going back to the Psalms, by going back to realizing we're only here on a short journey. We all have a job to do. We're all on a mission. You know, we're here to just for a span. And so this alters the whole thing about fear of death, that when you have the Lord, you know, Jesus said, this day will be with me in paradise. So this takes away fear. The other thing I teach people is about the ethical will, the Jewish ethical will, where instead of just your ordinary will of a state and your house and your money and who you're leaving it to, it's also your worldly, your essence, that the wisdom that you've learned over the years. And so you write that down for your children and the grandchildren. And very often when people write down what they've learned and their real values in life, they will actually decide they need to be here a bit longer to teach these things to the next generations. And they'll suddenly get a new will to live, which is really interesting, out of the ethical will, which is not many people know about that, but I was taught by a wonderful rabbi years ago, and a very interesting concept. So you write down the essence of what you have learned, the wisdom that you've learned. You know, very often we say, I wish I'd known that when I was 21.
That's it.
And it's true. And so when you write it down...
But that's the point, though, Felicity, is we're constantly learning. No matter what age you are, you're always constantly learning something new. And you know, the learning curves come at a particular time in your life where it's significant, and it might not have meant as much when you were 21 to have all that wisdom, because perhaps you wouldn't have used it as productive.
You never really learn from... you're told these things, but you have to learn them for yourself. This is what we're here for.
We're coming up towards the end of today's programme, Felicity. What did you find in advice, health-wise? What recommendations can you give to our lovely viewers today?
Well, basically, I'd like to pray for people, I think, and just say, Heavenly Father, I just pray for everyone watching our programme today, that the Holy Spirit will lead them in discernment and wisdom as to how to heal themselves in body, mind and spirit. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Felicity, thank you so much, as always, for joining us today. Also to our lovely viewers, thank you so much. It's been a great show today. Hope it's been informative to you, so please do feel encouraged to make any of those slight changes in your life. Remember, if you want to watch us on Catch Up on Revelation TV, it's on our website. It's revelationtv.com. Thank you so much. Take care. Have an amazing day and keep smiling. God bless. Bye.